12 million people came through Ellis Island between 1892 and 1954. You are one of them. You have a bag, a name the officer will probably spell wrong, and no specific plan beyond the address of a cousin in Lower Manhattan. New York in 1900 is the loudest place on earth. The streets smell like horses and garbage and food from everywhere. Nobody looks at you. Everyone is too busy surviving their own arrival to notice yours. The apartment is one room shared by 6 people from your village who arrived before you. The rent is more than it should be. The landlord knows you have nowhere else to go. So does everyone else in this building. The foreman picks by size and hands. Big hands mean work history. You have the right hands. He points at you. $1.50 a day, 12 hours, 6 days a week. You nod before he finishes the sentence. Nobody explains the job. You watch the men beside you and copy what they do. This is the orientation. It lasts about 30 seconds. Then you're expected to keep up. The papers write about the great Manhattan building boom, the architects, the steel barons, the visionaries. The men who carried the steel up do not appear in those stories. They rarely do. 20 stories up, steel beam 8 inches wide, no harness, no net, no safety equipment of any kind. The wind moves at this height in ways it doesn't move at street level. You know this. You account for it. You keep walking. The rivet gang was 4 men: the heater, the thrower, the catcher, the driver. A red-hot rivet thrown 40 feet between buildings had to be caught in a tin bucket and driven into place before it cooled. The sequence took about 60 seconds. They did it hundreds of times a day. The Mohawk iron workers from Kanawake came down from Canada to build New York's skyscrapers. They worked the highest steel. Nobody fully understood why they had the specific comfort with height that other workers didn't. They didn't explain it. They just worked. A slip at this height means one thing. You grab what is close. Sometimes something is close. Sometimes it isn't. The construction of every Manhattan skyscraper is measured not just in floors, but in the men who didn't make it to the next one. When a man fell, the work stopped for the time it took to deal with what had happened. Then it started again. The building had a schedule. The schedule did not adjust for the human cost of keeping it. While the iron workers built up, the sand hogs built down. The tunnels under New York, subway lines, water mains, gas lines, were dug by hand through Manhattan schist 1 foot at a time by men who spent their working lives underground. The dust in the tunnels caused silicosis. It destroyed lungs over years. The workers knew it was happening. The job didn't offer an alternative, and the family needed the wage. So they went back down every morning. The caisson workers built the foundations under the rivers. They worked in pressurized air chambers on the riverbed. Surfacing too fast caused the bends, nitrogen bubbles in the blood. Men died from it. They called it caisson disease. They didn't fully understand what caused it. They went back down anyway. The first New York subway opened in 1904. 150,000 people rode it on opening day. The sand hogs who dug the tunnels were not invited to the ceremony. They read about it in the paper. March 25, 1911. The Triangle Shirtwaist Factory Fire. 146 garment workers died because the owners locked the exit doors to prevent theft breaks. Most were young immigrant women. The owners were acquitted. The fire changed labor law in New York forever. There was no workers' compensation, no sick leave, no medical coverage. An injury meant choosing between the pain of working injured and the certainty of not eating. Most men worked injured. The buildings they built are still standing. The garment district ran on immigrant labor at piece rate pay. You were paid per item finished, not per hour worked. The faster you worked, the more you made. The faster you worked, the faster you were expected to work next week. $1.50 a day, 6 days, $9 a week. Rent, $4. Food for a family, $3. $2 left. No margin for sickness. No margin for accident. No margin at all. The unions organized in basements and union halls and the backs of saloons. The bosses sent men to break up the meetings. The men came back the next week. The organizing was slow and dangerous, and the only leverage workers had. The uprising of the 20,000 November 1909. Mostly young immigrant Jewish and Italian women walked out of the garment factories. They stayed out through the winter. They won shorter hours and better conditions. 2 years later, the Triangle Fire showed the owners hadn't changed the locks. The Triangle Fire created the Factory Investigating Commission. Frances Perkins was there the day of the fire. She spent the rest of her career turning what she saw into law. She became Roosevelt's Secretary of Labor and the architect of the New Deal. It started on a Manhattan sidewalk, watching women fall. The Flatiron Building opened in 1902. 22 stories. People stopped on the street to look up at it. They had never seen anything like it. The men who built it walked past it on their way to the next job. The Empire State Building went up in 14 months. 3,400 workers, 7 million man-hours. 5 workers died during construction, which was considered a remarkably low number for the scale of the project. The building stood as the tallest in the world for 40 years. The famous Lunch on a Beam photograph was taken in 1932 at Rockefeller Center. 11 iron workers sitting on a beam, 65 stories up, eating lunch like it was a park bench. Nobody remembers most of their names. The photograph is one of the most recognized images in American history. The skyline is the monument. Nobody built a monument to the men who built it. The skyline is what they left. It is still there. Every beam walked without a harness. Every rivet caught in a tin bucket 60 feet in the air. Every tunnel dug 1 foot deeper into Manhattan's schist. Still there, holding everything up like they always did.